All right, I am here with Jesse Rogers, transaction coordinator extraordinaire, who's currently helping me with a deal. Welcome, Jesse.
Hi, Mike. How's it going?
Going good. You and I got to meet working together at Beltran Properties Group, and I got to work close to you. And you started just when the pandemic started.
Yeah, about 3 weeks beforehand.
Then we all went home at some point, kind of came back, and then we went home again. So you've been doing this virtual thing. When you're a virtual TC, you have Westbound transaction services. Well, we'll
Yeah.
talk about the Westbound and the bus and all that later. We'll get to that. But tell us where you started in real estate.
Alrighty. Well, I can start from the very beginning, probably. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, so one of the most extravagant and expensive and bougie real estate markets in the entire world. And so I would, as a kid, just walk into random open houses like 2 blocks away for these little 3-bed, 1-bath bungalows for 900,000, just kind of how it was over there. And freaked out some realtors, but I loved it. And I loved looking around all these houses. I loved the neighborhoods. I loved watching my family members that worked in commercial real estate and development, build buildings and new construction and all that stuff. So I always had a desire for real estate. I wasn't sure exactly what it was. But nonetheless, when I went up here to Oregon, I started taking business classes and I decided that I was going to pursue some type of residential real estate career. And I started working for a local real estate agent in Eugene. And I was kind of more of a laid back assistant. I didn't have my license at the time. I was 19, I was still taking classes, but it was a perfectly flexible job. I got to do realtor things, but without, the heavy part of like doing showings and things that your license would kind of allow you to do. And then once I graduated from the University of Oregon, I stayed in Eugene tentatively for a year or two. We weren't sure how long we were going to be there, but in the meantime, I decided that I was going to get my license and I was going to kind of be more of a transaction coordinator and also a buyer's agent for the broker I had been working with since I was in college. And I started doing some sales and it was tough. It was not necessarily for me. So yeah, I took that desire and I ran with it through college. And once I got into the sales part, I realized that that wasn't my favorite thing, but I got to do more as a transaction coordinator. And I realized that I did definitely prefer that side of real estate. The puzzle making part of a transaction. I loved putting everything together, talking to other agents and, running errands and doing all those things, but not having to just rely on sales and commissions and stuff like that. So I found my niche in that.
So you were killing it with us and loved working with you. And then you decided to go out on your own. How'd you get to do that? Because that's a little scary to go out and start your own thing. Cause there's a little bit of the same thing. You still have to sell yourself just like real estate. So how was that process of starting off on your own?
It was a little scary at first, but I knew that I was definitely capable of managing the task and managing transactions remotely, working from home because of, being on the team and being sent home like 3 weeks into the job and basically like really working for a high producing team in that volume from home, all remotely and learning all these new systems. And then so I knew I was capable because I learned to do so during COVID. It was more so, the nerve-wracking part of finding agents that would hire me and whatnot. So I saved up a little bit of money before the jump. And then once I got into it, since I'm licensed with EXP, I had access to places like Workplace, which is owned by Facebook, and it's your social connection to other EXP brokers. And I was able to post on there and advertise my services. And then I was also able to post on my social media, which was my Facebook and my LinkedIn. And basically all of my prior connections from Eugene helped me land 3 brokers that worked in the same office that I did back at when I was living in Eugene, that had moved to EXP from that prior office. And then also posting on Workplace, I was able to get like another 2 to 3 agents just from that. So
Wow.
I would say it was all about the connections I made from just being an assistant and just like, being like a beginner TC at a different office. And since I do it remotely, like they can be in Eugene, they can be in Portland, they can be in Bend. And I don't want to brag or anything, but it really wasn't too hard to market to agents. I think it's just there's such a high demand for this kind of service. And so in comparison, to there's so many agents right now and so limited inventory that portion of real estate is way more competitive. So completely different end of the spectrum for those two fields.
When I started, I was in a big office, like 75 people, and there was someone who would take care of your transactions there, but you didn't have all these people to choose from like there are now, just because of that virtual sense, because this was really, the internet was not what it is today.
Yeah.
And it was not accessible to advertise yourself, find someone, and that communication just didn't feel the same. So, when my second year in real estate, I hired an assistant. So I hired an assistant to do, all my transactions, do my other stuff for me. But then you have payroll, then you have all these other things that add up. And I think the virtual TC is just a fantastic thing for agents. Is there anyone who shouldn't use a virtual TC?
There is, a fine line between like the type of work I do and like what a TC is really limited to doing. So, if you're looking for a TC that's going to do pretty much everything for you and your only involvement in the sale is putting a contract together and showing up for the end of the inspection to get a walkthrough, like I think you don't want to rely on a TC when you're still learning. I think you want to have somebody like teaching you everything that you're supposed to know and not rely on your TC to just know everything, because sometimes I'm not available. And, sometimes your client's going to ask you questions. And if you always relay those questions back to me, then you're not going to learn for yourself. So I think, I help all different type of skill levels. I'm working for an icon agent and a team right now. And then I'm also working for a brand new agent that's currently on their first transaction. I think the biggest thing is that, like I can help anybody, but it's just really important to distinguish, but like you're the agent, I'm the TC, and we got to be ready to work together and both do what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, I sent someone to you and they're new, and there was a bit of a thought is like, well, on one hand, they have to learn this. On the second part, they're also doing this job part-time. And to take that load off of their mind, I think for the part-time agent, this is what you offer and what virtual TCs offers is godsend, because they have limited time and they still have to learn it. They still have to know those things, but also that worry, when a new agent takes on a deal, it's like a new baby and that's all they're thinking about. And they're not doing the lead generation that they should to go get more deals. And so then they lose 6 weeks. And they're like, oh, okay, close this. Now I need a deal. So I see that there can be a little bit of a crutch of leaning on the TC, like, hey, help me. Well, what does this mean? And not getting there. But especially that part-time new agent, I think it's a huge benefit.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just all about basically a TC can help anybody. It's just making sure that like you want a TC to help, but you still want to learn and you still want to do the job. And most TCs are super flexible in that regard too. Like if you ask me a question on a Saturday, even though I don't tell people that I don't work on Saturdays, I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And when it comes to this icon agent who does, 90% of the paperwork himself, and then he just wants me to manage the files, like, okay, I'm doing that. Like just needs extra help. So it's a spectrum. And I think, for this new agent that I'm working for, she's both eager to learn and also eager to do everything like herself and be present for her clients. Like she picked up the earnest money check and from her clients directly and dropped it off at escrow. It's like perfect. Like she is definitely involved and just needs a little bit extra help learning the paperwork and managing the file and making sure that she doesn't have to focus on too many things at once.
When it comes to real estate, there are so many different jobs a real estate agent has to do. Their marketing, their accounting, their negotiating, they have to network. And obviously the paperwork, and most people who are good at real estate in general are terrible at the paperwork. And I know plenty of agents, we know some that they don't get, the deal closes and they haven't turned any paperwork in. So the thing with transaction coordinators or admin in general is they're usually task oriented. They love checklists and they love to do this paperwork. And the high eyes, as we know them in the disc, they're like, we just want to talk to people. We don't want to do these stupid things. So it's a huge benefit.
Mm-hmm.
What do you love about this job?
I love the puzzle. I mean, the task oriented part that you just like put together so perfectly. Yes, I love checklists. I love organization, which is funny because my house is a mess right now. It's like my brain operates the complete opposite way of every other part of me. But I love, how a transaction is a puzzle and there's so many different ways that you have to end up problem solving. It's like, oh, this inspection doesn't work with the tenants and you're going back and forth. It makes it so there's always something to do. There's the satisfaction of the puzzle being complete and a transaction closing. And then there's always the flexibility. I feel like we have in our position as remote TCs, even more flexibility when it comes to our schedule than real estate agents. Because a lot of people get into real estate and they're like, oh, I can work whenever I want. 100% of the time. Oh, sorry.
One of us froze.
Okay.
You're talking about working 100% of the time.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about real estate. It's like, oh yeah, it's, it's not 8 to 3 like or 7 to 3 like a teacher. It's not 9 to 5 like any other corporate job, but you are working every weekend and you're available all the time, basically by the time you're awake and by the time you go to sleep. And whereas I set my availability to be that of what a loan officer, well, that's probably not the best example because sometimes they work all the time too, depending on how busy they are.
Title officer.
Title officer. That's basically my same availability. And it's consistent with all the timelines, because they're all business days for the most part. And so I really don't have to be on call all the time. And I set really good boundaries that way too. And then if I limit my time to that much, then I can also have time on the weekends to do my own sales and do my own other things as I want. So flexibility, I'd say, is a really big perk.
So when is the bus going to get done so that you can go travel around in TC from anywhere?
Well, I've already been doing that, the traveling around from TC stuff anywhere. But just a little less cool versions. I've just been driving down to my parents for Christmas and whatnot, doing that. Just went to Hawaii for a wedding. So I was working there for a little bit. The time difference was actually really beneficial because I just did all my work in the morning and then all that fun stuff. But the bus, it's just a huge project, even though it's a very short bus. But we're hoping to have it finished by the end of, what month is it? Hopefully by the end of April at this point, during the spring. And then probably going to drive down the West Coast and spend some time with some extended family and close family for a little bit. And maybe do that for about 6 months, 6 to 8 months. And we're totally tricking out the bus to have WeBoost, Wi-Fi signals and cell boosters and all that stuff. So, and I've been testing it out on my phone in random places and my Wi-Fi hotspot is prime. So.
Van life, you're ready for that, huh? You bought that van about a year ago, right?
Yes, I have my bus anniversary on my calendar. I think it's the 25th of March.
Okay.
And it's all demoed. We got the subfloor in. It's just basically about putting it all together. That's why my office is a mess right now, because we have all of the water tanks and the fan and the water heater and the electrical system just kind of boxed up in a room, just waiting to get all put together.
That's awesome. I'm so excited for you for that.
Yeah.
Do you have plans to hire other? I know you're busy and you're pretty full right now. Are you having plans to make your business larger and hire some people?
I was thinking about that once I hit like my 1 year anniversary. I'm gonna kind of reevaluate where we are. I don't really know because I can manage it all myself, and I'm managing it all perfectly fine, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and I've got about 20 something or low 20 something pending right now, give or take. Yeah, and it's all pretty manageable. But I think later down the line, that's something I definitely would consider. And with the Westbound transactions, when I named it that, I was definitely thinking long-term for the West Coast, and that includes Washington, California, and learning those documents eventually and getting that licensing if I need to. And so yeah, we're on the fence right now. Everything's manageable, but if it gets to be too much and I'm able to afford to expand the team and pay them appropriately and spread everything out evenly, then I'll do it. I'm open to it.
When someone's interviewing for a TC, because you're full and they may be talking to someone else, what should they be asking?
If I'm the TC or
If they're interviewing TCs, what should they be asking? What should an agent ask so that they're getting a good person?
I would just ask about their experience, what markets they've worked in, what teams they've worked for. A lot of the times, it's about connections. And if I've worked on a deal before with another TC and I saw that they were doing a good job, I would refer to them or I would reach out to them. And, so it's kind of, you have to be cautious with as you're building up your portfolio and whatnot. Just, always maintain that professionalism and build good rapport as a TC. But yeah, and then I would ask about experience as the agent. And then I would, ask to see maybe some examples of like templates or what systems that you use, see if they know certain systems or just kind of how willing they are to learn new systems. Because as a TC, I think it's really important to be flexible, especially if you plan on working for different companies. I don't think it's really too concerning if you're like unfamiliar with something, but if you just kind of go to show that you're a fast learner and it only took you a month to learn the EXP SkySlope demands after switching over from KW Command, then that's something will definitely roll over into being a good TC for a new person.
One last thing, I wrote this down, I remember this. So you were competitive water polo, right?
Yeah. I played club on and off in college, but I've been playing water polo since I was 12.
How do you think sports helped you in business and in real estate?
I think, well, I'm competitive, but I'm not as competitive as some agents can be. I know there's a lot of agents out there that are all about beating other agents out and winning the deal. And then those are kind of agents that don't really care about paperwork either. So I won't talk about that though. I think just having such a regimented schedule as a kid and then well into college helps me just really be able to manage everything quite easily. In high school, I played 3 varsity sports. And then in college, I had two part-time jobs, full-time student, and then also played club water polo. And then, so just all of those things, especially once you get to college too, it's like, you're like on your own. Like my parents were like, bye-bye, figure it out. And so I was like, okay. And then I think just all of it together really helped me be regimented and be able to just kind of self-manage whatever kind of work I had, whether it was homework, whether it was working out, schedules, all of that. Water polo specifically, say I'm, if you're like used to getting like pulled under the water and punched in the face, you're really not afraid of like other agents getting petty or like you're not, you're not deterred by other TCs being passive aggressive because, you know, your buyers haven't signed the disclosures yet because they work 3 jobs and they're night shift and whatnot. So it makes me really calm and regimented, I'd say.
Yeah, there's some people who specifically want to hire people who were in high school or college sports specifically because they're coachable. They've had to deal with someone telling them, you know, how things are, and they can take the feedback without crumbling. They've dealt with, you know, tough schedules. They've dealt with, you know, just the training that goes into sports is no fun. It's actually, you want to go do the sport, all the little things to build you up. And so that ability to take on the training as much as it sucks, you're willing to do it. And so that's been, you know, a consistent thing I've heard is go find the people who've done sports. They're probably going to excel.
Yes, definitely. I mean, all of my teammates are working and doing super stellar things with their lives, and it's so great to see. And I definitely think something like that, you know, attributes to that, especially in college. Our practices were 8 to 10 p.m. at night. And
Jeez.
it was the stupidest thing. Anyways, the pool time, they don't like, the pools don't like water flow. We'll start with that. They just always screw up our schedules. But like to be able to stick with that for so long, like that in itself, you have to be really, really dedicated to something to not be able to go to Taylor's bar on Tuesdays because you have water polo practice. Yeah, and just, you know, the general structure of like having to do so many things and time management. It is really important. I do think that it is crossed over, and it hopefully is something that I hold on to, even though I'm no longer playing sports.
I know you have that drive. Well, I know you're busy right now and you're got full up on business, but if someone wants to reach out to you to see if you can help them, what states do you cover and how do they reach out to you?
So I currently only cover Oregon, although I do know a lot of agents in California. I have connections with TCs in Washington as well. But you can email me at Jessie, Jesse, at westboundtransactions.com. You can also check out my website, westboundtransactions.com. And I have a little bit more information about what I do, what I cover, the type of tasks I am flexible with. And then I am always willing to send somebody a detailed 3-page essay about my entire life story, as I've given you today, and why I became a TC and why I like it so much.
Awesome. Well, hey, I really appreciate you taking this time with me.
Thank you, Mike.
See ya.
See ya.